this is the last video of my Napa trip. First, I'm going to take you to a very cute cafeteria for breakfast. Then we're going to the Castello Di Amorosa winery for a tour and wine tasting. Come with us. Oh, I love this place. So cute.
The wine, but also to be able to come and party with us. So definitely a really cool experience.
Mario, and he's the gentleman that Misutui, the winery, is named after. He does have a lot of history that is rooted in the Napa Valley, as he is one of the first settlers that came in the area and planted grapevines with the intention of making grapes. So he opened up St. Louis cellars in the late 1800s, and he's definitely somebody that inspired Dario to continue his wine journey. And so he wanted to ensure that he could honor him by putting this mural above the fireplace, and it also includes the Situate family crest on the shield there.
This would have been something that's a little bit more of the time, so even a lot of intricate detail into something like that as well. That one I cannot recall the actual time of this piece here, but it's actually coming out of Austria.
Okay.
Right this way. And the Truncated Tower is actually one of the defensive posts here at the castle, so you're going to notice some defensive features as we're walking up along this ramp here. And AVA is an American viticultural area that's recognized worldwide as a top wine producing region. And there are 16 AVAs that are found in the Napa Valley, as well as 13 different microclimates. Each microclimate is going to be better suited for a different type of grape varietal that has the ability to really grow to its full potential in these specific areas. So really the climate is what's going to determine what you can grow in a specific region. And here we're part of the Diamond Mountain District AVA. Our specialty is Cabernet Sauvignon. So we really have mainly rows and rows of Cabernet Sauvignon that we have growing on property. We have a little bit of Zinfandel, a little bit of Merlot as well, and Sangiovese, but really Cabernet is what we specialize in. And that is because we have the ideal climate for this particular grape varietal. The Cabernet Sauvignon grape is one of the most resilient grape varietals out there. It has that really thick skin that could withstand high temperatures and direct sunlight. So it's definitely something that is important to be able to develop in a region such as this, because the grape skin is going to give you the color in your wine, it's going to give you the tannic structure, and then the flavor profile as well. So it's definitely something that you want to allow to develop to its full potential. And here we have the ideal conditions in the form of the temperature. The temperature itself is going to be between 95 to 105 degrees during the day, while the grapes are really ripening, which is ideal for this specific type of grape varietal. But in the evening, you get a really cool cooling effect that happens. So there's a temperature fluctuation that drops about 30 to 40 degrees. So definitely something that is ideal for the grape as well, because it allows to have those sugars created within the grape. And then you also have that soil composition that is very ideal for this specific grape varietal. You have an assortment of mineral-rich mountain soil with marine soil and some ash-rich volcanic soil as well. This is what's going to allow to have the grapevines absorb all those minerals and nutrients that are going to allow it to really ripen to its full potential. And the reason the Napa Valley is so famous, it's the fact that it stretches for about 30 miles. Within those 30 miles, again, we have those 16 AVAs, or 13 different microclimates, to kind of to put things into perspective. In the next room over, we make all of our red water. The technology is fairly similar. What we're looking at here are packaged temperature controlled stainless steel tanks that are going to allow us to raise and lower the temperature as much as necessary to provide those ideal temperatures for the wines that we're fermenting. And so white wines ferment at a low temperature of about 50 degrees, whereas red wines are going to ferment at a higher temperature of about 80 degrees. And that's one of the key differences between the two.
The white wines are typically going to spend about 4 to 8 weeks in the fermentation tank, whereas the red wines spend about 5 to 8 days. Since it's happening at the higher temperatures, somewhat of a quicker turnover in the fermentation tank for those red wines. And so before we can start fermenting our wine, we do need to collect our fruit. So we do hand source all of our grapes to ensure that we're starting off with the best quality fruit possible to produce the best quality wine possible. And so everything is done by hand. Once we've selected all of our clusters, they're going to be put through a destemmer, which is going to separate the stems themselves from the actual grapes. The grapes are going to roll onto a conveyor belt that's going to be bringing the fruit up and over, and it's going to funnel it through a hopper, and eventually it's going to go into this machine right over here. That's the machine that we see with the orange top to it. That's called the bladder press. The way the bladder press works is like a big chamber that has a bladder inside, which is essentially like a deflated balloon. As the grapes are coming in, the bladder is going to start to expand and fill up with air. That's going to cause for all of the grapes to be pushed up against the walls, and very gently and delicately it's going to be pressed, allowing for all the juice to run to the bottom, which collected in a separate tank. At which point, if you're making white wine, you want to take the juice by itself and put it into the tank by itself. You would separate the grape skins, and they would be converted to oils and would go back into the vineyard. For the red wines, we want to collect the grape skins and the juice and put them in the tank together, as that is what's going to give us the coloration in our wine, as well as the tannic structure and flavor profile as well. So that's another key difference between the two styles. And so at this point, once we have our juice in the tank and our juice and skins in the tank, we introduce Italian filtered yeast, which is what we use specifically since we're making Italian style wines. The yeast will begin to metabolize the sugars in the juice and convert those sugars into alcohol and into CO2 as well. So if you're making still wine, you want to make sure that the lid of the tank is open so you're not trapping in the carbonation. But if you're making sparkling wine, you want to make sure the lid is tightly secured and shut so that you're trapping in as much carbonation as possible. And the same thing is happening with the red wines as well. And since we do have the skin contact with the red wines, all of those grape skins are going to be pushed up to the top of the tank because of the bubbles that are being created by the carbonation. And it's going to create a cap of skins at the top, which is going to be a 3-foot layer of skins that is going to be resting at the top of the tank, which is no good for us. We want to maximize the mixing as much as possible. So 2 times a day for the 5 to 8 days that those red wines are fermenting, we need to do what's called a pump over or a punch down. And these are methods of getting the skins from the top of the tank back down to the bottom to maximize the contact between the skin and the juice. The punch down is where you take a hydraulic disc that hovers over the tank and it lowers, physically pushing all the grape skins down and allowing for the juice to rise up to the top, kind of like a French press. Whereas the pump over, you take a hose very similar to the ones that we see running right over here. Then you go to the bottom of the tank, you're going to go up and over, and then you're going to drain the tank itself. So then the juice is going to push all the grape skins back down to the bottom. Now you have skins at the bottom, juice at the top. Eventually they're going to work their way back up, which is why we need to do this 2 times a day while the red wines are fermenting. After the 5 to 8 day period, those red wines are going to be ready to go into the barrel, as red wines do need to be barrel aged and undergo a secondary fermentation that happens inside the barrel. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get down into the barrel room. And then once the white wines are done in the tank, they're pretty much ready to be bottled and released shortly after. So it's a pretty quick in this building alone. So we did lose our bottling line, our laboratory, our library wine storage, and our administration offices that were all housed in this facility right over here. And so all of these tanks originally were in this building, but since everything had to be gutted and cleaned, and now everything is in the process of being rebuilt, it's definitely something that we that requires to be processed. It's nothing to do with everything that's happening in the world. So we did have this shipping container that was be able to grow just about anything in this area. And we do have to purchase grapes from different vineyards, which we would only just buy the grapes themselves. We would never buy juice that's already pressed. We bring in the fruit and treat everything in our own facilities and then process it and then release that when it's ready. But we would never buy juice that's pressed. That way we can have the most control from start to finish on our product. Yeah. Perfect. We're going to continue along right this way. Authentic pieces. We have our war helmet right over here that is from the 13th century, as well as this chainmail armor right over here as well. You're welcome to get a feel for this if you'd like. Just put your hand underneath it and you can lift up and get a sense for the weight.
Can I put it on?
Definitely, I would not recommend it. And this is one of those pieces that is definitely pretty heavy. It's pretty impressive to consider that we would be running off in a battle wearing something like this, right? But it's exactly what you would want when somebody was coming in. And it makes sense because at that time, if you live within the walls of the castle, you're essentially under the king's rule. And the king's word is law. So you had to have a way to punish criminals and also to be able to fish out traitors and spies within the kingdom. This is where this room comes into play. And so if you were overqualified for the pit of despair, if you were thought to have information that was relevant to the kingdom, you would end up in a room such as this. And these devices, as deadly as they look, they're not really designed to kill you. They might, you might die from shock along the way eventually, but it's not really designed for that reason. So this one in particular, as well as the hot seat right over here, are interrogation devices. And so you can get a pretty good idea as to how something like this works, right? So they would shackle someone here by the ankles, and then they would be laid over the hands over here, and then they'd be shackled from the wrists.
Oh
as
no!
They begin to turn the wheel over here, it's going to cause for a stretching effect in the body. So that the body's being stretched. And with each section that the body is being stretched, it's going to cause for these rollers to turn.
Oh,
no. Each
no.
time in your back. So definitely something to make this even more unbearable and agonizing. Something that's already pretty painful to begin with. All the while, the people that are strapped to this device are being questioned about things that they may or may not even know about.
Yeah.
It's an effective way of getting information out of someone. Whether the information was relevant or reliable or not was a totally different story, because people would say just about anything to be able to be released off of a device such as this, right? Kind of the same way that the hot seat works over here. So this is something that, again, is not going to kill you. So they would strip somebody down, have them sit down here for extended periods of time to really create that physical discomfort, right? And all the while. Now, whenever you're doing barrel tasting, one thing to consider is the fact that this is still a work in progress. So the wine that's inside still hasn't completed its full term in the barrel. This one still needs about 6 more months in the barrel, and then it's going to be bottled and rest in the bottle for 2 years. So this is something that we're tasting to get an idea as to what the process is like and what's happening to the wine inside the barrel. So after we try this 2021, we're going to go upstairs and we'll try the 2017, which is a more polished and finished product. That way you can see what happens to the wine as it develops and completes its term in the barrel. We're going to access the wine by using our wine thief. We're going to get in there and be able to pull out some of the wine that's inside, and that way we can taste it. And this is the same way that the winemaking team checks the wine in order to see how it's developing over time.
It's like you're talking to a wall. It's like, yeah. I don't feel it.
It feels like it's a speaker or something.
You hear me? You talk.
That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's fucking amazing.
The White House, and they have one in the White House or somewhere.
Oh, that was really amazing.